There's your notice. So Zeb, do you want to start us off today?
Yeah, please. Thank you, Jonathan. So what we have for you, we'll get right into introductions in just a moment, but I want to preface it for everyone that's taking time out of their busy day. We are very, very pleased to announce that we've reached a tentative agreement with the County of Monterey and SEMA, your union. And we're very proud of the agreement that we have. And the folks you're about to meet, or you probably are familiar with and already have met, are all unanimously recommending a yes vote on this very economically rich package. The details we'll get into right now. So let's just start off with introductions, and then after that, Jonathan, when we come back, what I'd like to do, maybe feel a little bit differently, is kind of go over a little bit of the overview as to how we got here and what this contract signifies, and then you can take us away with the presentation. Does that sound reasonable?
Sounds great.
Okay, wonderful. Well, hello, everybody. My name is Zeb Feldman, SEMA OE3 business agent out of the San Jose office. And I had the honor of sitting first chair during these negotiations. And I'll turn it over to you, Jonathan.
Hi, everybody. Jonathan Brown. I am your dedicated SEMA OE3 business agent. I enjoyed sitting second chair in negotiations. We had a great team, a very dedicated group of individuals who all turn to now for introductions. And actually, Dina, I think you joined us first, so I'm going to start with you.
Hi, everybody. Dina Northcutt, Management Analyst with Housing and Community Development.
Thank you. Annalisa?
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Annalisa, Nursing Director here at Natividad.
Joe?
Hello, everyone. Joe Ferroti, Program Manager at CalWorks Employment Services.
Ginger?
Guys, I'm Ginger Pierce. I'm the CAPC Director at Social Services.
Thank you. And did I see Sandra? Did you join us? Or was that just, I'm omitting another Sandra?
I did not see Sandra.
Okay. Well, we also had your executive board representative, chair to the Monterey County Advisory Council, who sat on the negotiations team as well, Sandra Ontiveros. So she was part of the group as well.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jonathan. And so what we plan to do today is we have already had one meeting to explain the contract, which was a site meeting that got converted into a contract roadshow, if you will. Today's exclusive purpose is billed and advertised as an explanation of the contract. So please feel free at any point to ask questions. We will be answering those questions for you. And of course, explaining, we do have a presentation prepared that will explain the most salient features of the contract. And then Jonathan's about to get into that. I think you'll probably display it on your screen so you folks can follow along. Something too that I want to just let everyone know about is how this came about. So Jonathan made reference to you have a very dedicated team, for almost all of which are here with the exception of Sandra, who attended every day and negotiated with the county, made persuasive arguments to them, lobbied the Board of Supervisors, lobbied the county's hired help. They hired an outside legal agency to represent them at the table, as well as their in-house labor relations HR department. And your folks did a really great job. We listened to you directly, took input from the surveys, and those were the positions that we advocated for and presented at the table. And we're very proud to present the details here today. The other thing that I want you to please pay close attention to is the economic richness of the package in a down year, right? So how that came together, again, goes to the bargaining team's persuasion, but also our participation in politics, right? Our ability to build those relationships, which are starting to yield fruit rather, with the Board of Supervisors, our participation in Measure AA, and that passage, which loosened the purse strings a little bit with the county, made an otherwise down year, as I'm characterizing this current budget cycle as. The budget freeze is probably not lost on any of you. Gave some comfort to the decision makers and allowed them to open those purse strings a little bit wider for SEMA and emphasize that there needs to be a reward for being in management and there needs to be a reward for being a leader in the county. And I hope you all agree that that's reflected in this package. So why don't you take us away, Jonathan?
Thank you, sir. So like Zeb mentioned, we do have a presentation here that will summarize the key features of our contract. First, again, just giving a great deal of thank you to your negotiations team. It was really from their hard work and dedication that we were able to get such big wins in a down economic year, as Zeb was pointing out. So right to it, I'm sure if you haven't heard this before, this is the highlight of the presentation, which covers 4 areas I think are, most noteworthy here. So we're going to have a shorter term than what we originally were seeking, but that again has some economic richness to it. So it's a 2.5-year term, which means after that term, we will be going back to the table and looking for more. But during this term, you will receive if it ratifies, you will receive a 16% increase over a 2-year period. So that's 4% upon implementation of the contract, January 1, 2025, and that will be reflective in the first full pay period in January. You'll get another 4% at the fiscal year in 2025, another 4% on the calendar year, January 1, 2026, and the last 4% there at the fiscal year of July 1st, 2026. As one of our members, Kathy Wells, pointed out, that's 4% for this fiscal year, 8% for the next fiscal year, and then another 4% for the following fiscal year. For your healthcare.
Hey, Jonathan.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, but what I'd love to do is just give an option for the negotiations team to comment any further on each of these. Is there anything the team wanted to add to the base wages or term? If not, I certainly don't want to force people into commenting, but there may be other sections that they want to comment on. I had just put in chat over the 2.5 years, that's an average of 6.4% a year without compounding, talking about the base wage increases. And what that also means is that I'm sure you do this with your budget at home. The compounding brings it to about 16.8%. So it's not quite another full percentage point, but that 4%, 4%, 4%, 4%, 6 months apart, because you're getting a 4% increase on the prior 4% increase, that all adds up. So just, if you're looking at it, it does come out to be more than 16%. But sorry, go ahead, Jonathan. I thought maybe the negotiations team wanted to add.
No, that's absolutely correct. And thank you for adding to that. That's actually, I did get a couple of emails asking if it was compounding, just as I've pointed out, it is. Moving to the healthcare contribution, we matched what was given to SEIU in their negotiations. In case you aren't familiar with that contract, essentially it was 0 out of pocket for CalPERS Gold, with 18% increases in the county's contribution, 9% each year for the life of the contract. So we did have to give up our cash out option, but that is a very favorable healthcare contribution to us. I'm going to jump ahead, so forgive me for skipping a few slides here, but there was some questions on that and what that meant. So I've updated this presentation from the last time we gave it. I'm sorry, I gave it last Wednesday to show what that means for each of the options. You can find this on the county's website as well, but you can see for any place where there's a negative, that means you would have had cash out. We've had to give this up, like I just mentioned, in order to get the richness of the healthcare contribution here. But CalPERS Gold is 0 out of pocket. There is some cost for CalPERS Platinum. For Anthem Select, you have some marginal amounts here, as well with the Trio HMO, and for Kaiser coming into their area, some reasonable rates here as well. I hope you will agree. This was attached to the meeting invitation, so you guys should all have that. If there's any questions on that, please save your questions to the end of the presentation and we can go over all the details in greater length. Going back to the spotlighted areas, we are also the only union or bargaining unit to negotiate, sorry folks, a 401A with 0 out-of-pocket costs to you, meaning all other bargaining units that have this 401(a) retirement account had to pay for it out of the healthcare contribution. We got a zero out-of-pocket 401(a) that will start for all members in 2027 at $100 a month. So as it's been referred to as the thin end of the wedge here, that's a very good explanation of it. Because again, because of the shorter term, that means when we go back to the bargaining table in approximately 2 years' time, we'll be looking to increase this amount for your retirement levels. Next, I wanted to highlight the one-time base wage increases. I'm going to take a little bit longer to explain what these are, why these increases were in place, because I've gotten a significant amount of emails asking about them. These classifications here all received the one-time base wage adjustment as a direct result to what the one-time base wage adjustments that were given to SEIU in their recent negotiations. So because the subordinate classification SEIU was given these one-time adjustments, it either compacted or severely compressed the management classification, the ex-unit classifications that you see here. And that's why these classifications are getting this one-time adjustment. So this was not a result of base wage studies or classification studies or some other process. It is a direct result of what was given to SEIU and their one-time base wage adjustments. And I promised my voice was fine until I got on this call, and now it feels like it's going out. So sorry for the coughing, and excuse the raspiness of my voice here. Also wanted to go over just some of the other changes that I'm going to characterize as wins that we were able to negotiate. We've enhanced our base wage and classification study process. We've added the ability to request updates to job specifications. That's because over the last 2 years that we've had this process in place, we haven't reached our maximum amount of 15 study requests over those 2 years. So let's say we get 10 requests, I can then request to update 5 job specs. The ones that always come to mind for me are the management analyst job specs and the program manager job specs, because I believe they were last updated around 2 decades ago. They're not very clear in their distinguishing characteristics, even within their respective series or to one another. So that's kind of what I always use as an example there, but there are definitely more within the county that needs to be updated. Also, we've added timelines for county responses to our appeals. Our current language doesn't have that, so the county had an infinite amount of time to respond to our appeals, so we wanted to give them some parameters around that, and we're able to get that win. And because of some of our appeals continuing being denied, we've added the ability to take 7 studies per year to a third-party consultant for recommendation back to the county, so that we can have a neutral third party eyes on this, it was just a very big win. I can't emphasize enough how big of a process this is and the wins that we've gotten from this. So I hope we can all agree that this is a significant change to our current MOU. Also in bilingual pay, we increased that. I should have changed this again by over 50%, because it was $45 per month. Now it's $45 per pay period. And there are those 2 pay periods a year that there are those 2 months a year that have 3 pay periods in them. Holidays and leaves, we're adding Cesar Chavez as an observed holiday. Winter recess will be included for the term of the contract. On the accruals, we moved the 6-year tier to a 5-year tier and added a day at that step. So it went from 27 days to 28 days. That's to match, again, the SEIU classification, so that you aren't accruing less time than the folks that you're managing. Also for your cash out, we've added an additional 20 hours at each tier and removed the stipulation that 120 hours of the combined PTO professional leave had to be used. Again, just a small pause here for the cash out option. I've had several discussions with HR now on this. they have confirmed that for anybody who has already made their election to their cash out, that if you go back into ESS and submit a new request with additional hours, that will be taken. So the last request made is a request the county will honor. So that is a really good step for us, given that this contract hasn't ratified yet or been adopted, but in anticipation that it will, that is the agreement that we've come to.
And so, Jonathan, could you just repeat that and highlight it for folks that in case they do want to cash out, how they might want to revise that request?
Yeah, again, so it would be going back into the ESS system and just making a new election of the time with the extra hours.
Great. Pretty simple, but just so people don't forget if they want to take advantage of that.
Absolutely. Also on longevity, we've removed the penalty for a break in service. So now it's just going to state consecutive years of service as a permanent full-time employee. Anyone who is less than full-time is on a pro rata basis, but they do need to be a permanent employee. So for those folks who are going to be going into longevity, or because of the removal of this stipulation, will be in a higher tier, I've talked to HR and we've come to a compromise that after the MOU is adopted by the county, after the next Board of Supervisors meeting on the 3rd, December 3rd, a new form will either be sent out to you all or sent to me, and I will send it to you all. So you can submit that after 12/3. So again, anyone who's going to go into a higher tier or is going to enter longevity sooner than you would without the removal of this language, a new form will be provided to us after the next Board of Supervisors meeting on December 3rd, and I will get that out to you all. We've enhanced our on-call language, clarifying the callback language, and increase the quarterly amount for Natividad to $1,250 amount. Previously, it was $1,000, so an extra $250 per quarter. The professional development both got increases, or there's two elements of the professional development, rather. Your professional expense stipend that's given to you at the first full pay period of each year. It was $400. It's going to be $450 again, as long as this ratified and is adopted. The expense allowance that you get each month, currently at $50, is going to increase to $75 for an overall annual increase of $350 in your pockets. For the DSW work, we've added 2 features. One, that any differential that you would normally get will be included in your DSW hours, and that there will be no adverse work action taken against you while you're on DSW assignments. Meaning, if you have certain timelines that you're supposed to meet in your regular duties, but you're on DSW, those duties are going to need to be transferred to somebody else, and that will be for the department to figure out, not for you as an individual. Just gonna admit somebody real quick. Retirement benefits. This is for new hires only. It's for deferred compensation. All new hires will automatically be enrolled in the 457B plan. Just going to call it out that all of you on this call, as existing ex-unit members, have the ability to contribute as you like to this plan. But for new hires, they'll automatically be enrolled at 1% of their pre-tax wages. Each subsequent year, it will increase by 1% up to a maximum of 10%, at which time it will be capped out. Of course, they will have the option to either opt out of this at any time or change the contribution to something that they want, rather than the way this is structured here, at any time. We also have really good work environment language. Called this out at the site meeting. I'm going to call it out again. Dina, thank you for crafting this language. It's essentially anti-bullying language that's not based on a protected class. So if one person is being treated with malice to another person, it will be regardless of your demographics, and will allow the union to step in and to correct that issue. Also, it will protect you all from any type of retaliation that might come from it. Oops, sorry. I did want to note one withdrawal. that we worked very hard on. That was retiree healthcare. I'll give a nod here to Ginger Pierce. She really led the charge on this. And we explored many different ways that we could have a retiree healthcare contribution. Unfortunately, because of the current contract between CalPERS and the county, we wouldn't be able to do it for all of you. It was told to us that we could do it for new hires that would go into effect when they retired, I think 15, 20, 25 years from now, right? Which didn't fit what we were looking for. So we shifted our focus again to the richness of this contract, 16% over the 2-year period, and other retirement features such as the 401A. And now that I do see Sandra on the call with us, I will give the nod to her. As I reported out before, the only bargaining unit that didn't have to pay for the 401A out of your healthcare contribution, and Sandra really took the lead on that. So that is why we shifted our focus from retiree healthcare, because of that contract, the contractual agreement between county and CalPERS, and put it towards the base wage increases and 401A. And then the last slide here, again, it just shows what your healthcare levels will be. I know that you guys have all already made your elections based on SEMA. We reported out that it would be the same or better as SEIU, and it is the same. So that's what you'll see here. So with that, I can stop the share and open it up to any questions or additional comments from the team.
And Jonathan, we have a lot of questions that have come in. The team has tried to answer some of them, but I'd like to respond directly. Also, why don't we give a chance to Sandra, if you'd like to introduce yourself. Most people know you, but introduce yourself for the benefit of those on the recording and those that have joined the meeting.
I'll just use my pitch since everybody already knows me and they hear from me quite a bit. So I'll just throw my pitch in again to, this is a good way for you to talk to your colleagues and please get them to sign up with us. I think that the bigger the group, the more results we can do. And, you know, like everything, I just want to add, you know, united, we are stronger. And so we could use your help to bringing in, I know of a few of you after our last meeting did reach out and I appreciate it and referred people, and that was awesome. And I'd really like to get as many more as we can, but I'd really wanted to use my pitch for that.
Thank you, Sandra. And
I
I
hope
understand
you guys are happy and you guys all vote and you tell everybody to vote.
Yep, absolutely. Right on, Sandra.
Yeah.
Well, why don't we just start turning? Oh, go ahead, Jonathan.
So yeah, small note, actually in 4 minutes, it is time that the ballots are going to start to go out. So if you don't get your notice, it's going to come from SurveyMonkey and it's going to be under Zeb's email. It is a secure ballot. Please do not forward or send that off to anyone else. If you have a question, please reach out to either Zeb or myself in a separate email. But you guys should all be getting that at around 12:30 is when it's scheduled to go out. And it will be open until Wednesday at 4. I will send out a separate email at 4:30 that day, or approximately around 4:30, announcing the results of our voting process.
Great, thank you. So I'm going to go through and bargaining team, if you can help, please feel free to answer any of these questions as I go through them. Also, someone mentioned, I'm trying to scroll back, Denise mentioned that an LFB alarm is going off and they had to evacuate their building, so they missed the remainder of the presentation. One of the many reasons we're recording it today, so her and her colleagues, anyone else that's in that building, will be able to access this on our YouTube page. The first question is, I see no mention of Blue Shield Trio under healthcare costs. What are our costs for Blue Shield Trio?
So just going to share my screen again really quick. So Blue Shield Trio, you'll see, is employee only. It's going to be $46.79. It's the $111.58 for the +1 and $142.45 for family coverage. Again, you guys, hopefully you guys have this presentation or this slide deck on the calendar invite that went out, so you can reference it there. Or you can email me and I'll send it to you directly. You can also go to the county's HR website And this is actually a screenshot from what SEIU is receiving right now, but it is exactly what you'll be experiencing actually come in December.
Great, thank you for that explanation, Jonathan. Lizette Vasquez asks, I'm a returning former county employee, was separated for 2 years. Was there a discussion of longevity pay being applicable to returning county employees? And Jonathan, I think you covered that with the removal of the gap in service restriction. So that does mean for you, Lizette, and others in a similar circumstance, you will be eligible for that longevity pay in a way that you weren't previously. But team, feel free to add any more to that if you wish. I don't know that there's much more to say about that, but also as we answer questions, please feel free to add clarifying comments or questions in chat if we somehow haven't covered everything. Travis Bay, if I hope I say your name right, Travis Bay asks, does a 401A go into effect on January 1 or July 1, 2027? We answered this in chat, but you want to go ahead with that one, Jonathan?
Yeah, it's January 1, 2027.
Yeah, trick question, right? Neither, right? January 1, 2027. Raquel Mojica asks, when you have a moment, can you please clarify the telework policy and if that is applicable to Natividad? Natividad tends to discourage telework.
So the telework policy wasn't changed in these negotiations. It's still covered by the countywide policy there. So no changes. It is on a case-by-case basis, and basically looking at if someone has, I'm going to say the bandwidth to work from home. So like for, just because you're next to me, Annalisa, on the screen, I'm going to call out Annalisa. Annalisa doesn't have any telework options, work from home options. She's clinical. She has to be in person for all her time. So she wouldn't be able to have that ability. But everybody else will have that case-by-case looks. And if you would like me to send you that policy, please email me and I will grab that and send it to you.
Great, thank you. Let's see. Ma Eden Barganza asks, is the forfeiture of healthcare cash out the same for non-managers?
Yeah, and I see that you responded in chat, and it's exactly what you said there, Zeb, is yes, I do believe, as Zeb stated, that we were the last group to have cash out on healthcare. Forgive me if that's incorrect. I do think it is. And so the county had a very strong desire to make that more of a uniform benefit where the cash out wasn't an option. And again, in order to get the richness of the healthcare contribution, base wages, 401A, and other items of this contract, that was one item we had to give up.
Yep, absolutely. And really what I'm characterizing as a takeaway, that just means something that's a loss in the contract. And we want to be perfectly clear with you that it is a loss, right? Way more than outweighed by the 16% plus pay increase, but something that is being taken away. Several more questions. A couple of the questions are added in, have been to direct messages. So I can't see if other bargaining team members have direct messages. I won't identify your name for people who are sending direct messages. So I'll just say anonymous asks, hi, how does bilingual pay work? When do I get compensated?
So
oh, go ahead.
Yeah, bilingual pay, it has to be authorized by the department. I believe in our contract, it still states that the bilingual skill has to be used 33% of the time, again, authorized by the department. And if it is, then you will see that automatically provided to you as you do now, which is $45 per month, but it will change to the $45 per pay period.
However, I think you have to pass a test, right?
I had to look, Sandra.
I believe so.
Yes,
think
so
you do.
so it's coordinated usually with HR. You have to pass the test, your position has to be deemed. There's a whole process for that. So normally, if you're in management, please look to your department head so that the paperwork can be submitted.
And you're absolutely, both of you are absolutely right. And this is generally universal for bilingual, is that not only do you have to pass a test at whatever level the employer requires for that particular assignment, but then the employer, meaning your boss or department, has to need you to use bilingual, right? Just because you're bilingual and want to check doesn't inherently mean that you're going to get it, right? You need to be it needs to be necessary for the dischargement of your duties. Okay, let's see. Colleen Reardon asks, does the shortened contract length mean that negotiations will start earlier in 2027? What will that mean for future negotiation strategies? So I can speak to this one. The shortened contract length means that we will go into negotiations likely at the same time that we did this. When I say the same time, we usually want to go, 6 to 9 months prior to the expiration of the contract. So the fact that it's a 2.5-year deal means that we will probably go in to contract negotiations, assuming it passes, in 2 years or 1 year, 1 3/4 years, somewhere around that time horizon. So yeah, it does pull it up a little bit as opposed to if it was 3 years, but let's say it was 3 years, we'd still be going in 6 months or 9 months prior to expiration. Let's see. Nina Wolfhook has 2 questions. The first is, can you speak to SEMA recommendation for the contract? Sure. So we absolutely are recommending that you vote yes. We think this is a great contract. As I may have mentioned, I don't know if you heard at the beginning, can't remember if I or Jonathan mentioned, this is a unanimous yes vote. We think you should vote up on this one. For those of you that were keeping score at home, on the last contract that we put before you, the foundational contract, the bargaining team had a neutral recommendation, meaning we said, here's the best we could do at the table. You guys give us a thumbs up or thumbs down. Let us know what you think about it. The team overwhelmingly passed it. But in this circumstance, it's a little bit different. But staff and the negotiations team, everyone you see here who introduced themselves, are unanimously recommending a yes vote for the economic richness of the contract. I don't know if anyone else wants to speak to that. Nina's second question, anybody can answer this. At 5 years, we get an extra day. What happens at 10 years? I think that's a reference to the vacation accruals.
That is the same.
Yes.
Thank you.
And I'll just add that,
go ahead.
yes, we do recommend a yes vote.
And I want to add something too. I firmly feel confident in saying I really don't think we would have gotten what SAU got if it wasn't for us really, all of us fighting and pulling for our members. I feel confident in saying that. And we do all love this contract, this MOU. We would love for you to all vote yes.
That's right. Thank you, Dina. And to Dina's point, everyone did a great job, and we really, each individual bargaining team member had particular items from the surveys and site meetings and their own personal experience in the county that they really went to bat for. And I think it just led to a better agreement.
Right. Zeb, real quick, I don't know if you touched on George's question about changing their healthcare options. If you
I don't think so. I haven't gotten to that one yet. Or maybe I skipped it. I don't know. But go ahead, please.
So he's asking, can you revise your healthcare plan after open enrollment since contributions have changed? And the answer is no. Unfortunately, per CalPERS regulations, at least that's my understanding, an increase or decrease in an employer's contribution level does not equal a qualifying event to change your plan. So unfortunately, it does not.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I just want to try to get through all the questions, make sure everybody's questions are answered on that one.
Patricia Ruiz asks, for gold, can we still use the extra funds to cover the dental and vision coverage for family?
Yes, so that is a current county practice that will stay intact, that if there's any dollars left over from the County's contribution towards your healthcare plan, it will go towards dental and vision, and the excess left over from there will go back to the county after that instead of the cash out option.
Thank you. Anonymous asks, regarding the one-time base wage increase for behavioral health services managers, deputy directors in behavioral health are also represented by CIMA and directly supervise the BH service managers. What about this creating compaction between the BHSMs and the deputies?
I didn't know if I was going to answer that. We are not aware of any compaction between other classifications. If you believe you're compacted, compaction is when a subordinate classification comes within 5% of your pay. Please let us know. I will put a little bit of a caveat on that, is that what I just stated is the union's position on that. The county's position is compaction can only exist within a series. So we've had some back and forth on that. But again, I would encourage you to look at your top step to your subordinate's top step. And if it is within 5%, please let us know and we can have further discussions on that.
Thank you. There was another anonymous one, and then I'll turn to William's question. The anonymous, for the longevity pay that will be added after one, I apologize, for the longevity pay, pause, will that be added after the one-time increase or before? After, as it, oh, so sorry, I had my response. So the answer is that it doesn't necessarily matter, but let's say you're eligible for longevity now and you're getting it today, you will have a lower percentage than once you receive the one-time adjustment. So longevity is a percentage, so it moves with whatever your base rate of pay is. It's not stacking, so we just want to be perfectly clear. Let me give you round, easy numbers. Let's say I make $100,000 a year, and I'm eligible for a 3.5% longevity pay. 3.5% of 100,000 is $3,500, right? Now, let's say I get a bilingual differential. Doesn't impact my longevity pay because that doesn't build my base. That just adds a differential. Now, you get the one-time adjustment, or you get the 4% just that everyone's going to get upon implementation of this contract. That bumps my longevity payment now because my base salary has gone up. So 3.5% of my base salary is now higher by whatever I went up, the one-time adjustment, and then let's say the 4%. So your longevity moves with whatever your base is. That's the cleanest way to say it. Your longevity moves with whatever your base is. So if you become eligible for longevity a year into the contract, it's whatever your base is. Let's say you're eligible today, but then your base increases, your longevity payment will increase with it. Probably got too into the weeds on that one, but go ahead. I'm not quite sure. Maybe you can help me on this one, team. William Vermelier asks, I didn't see any change to PERS Platinum. So kind of a comment question. I'm not, yeah, so.
Yeah, there should be, to be honest, I've forgotten what it would have been if we didn't change the levels. Sorry, I'm responding to a direct message quickly, but per this agreement, again, if it ratifies and is adopted by the county, these will be the levels next month for CalPERS Platinum. Again, it's going to be $341.47 for the employee only, $676.64 for plus one, and $877.74 for the family coverage.
Yep.
So I hope that answers that question.
Beautiful. Another anonymous, and folks, again, if you want it to be anonymous, that's fine. A lot of people benefit from seeing the questions in chat. So if you can, just put them publicly. So this is anonymous. Just curious, are we able to start contributing to the 401A before 2027? Additionally, do we know what investment firm or platform will be used for the 401A at this time, or is that still to be determined? So that's a good question, and I frankly don't know the answer to that question. Do you happen to know, Jonathan? I can speak to the investment platform, but I can't speak to whether or not the 401A is established today.
No, the 401A won't be established until January 1, 2027. It's my understanding, and Sandra might actually have more information on this as she sits on the committee for it. But 401A, to my understanding, is an employer-based contribution account, meaning the employer adds funds to it, not the employee. You all still have the ability to contribute to your 457B plan at whatever level you like. But starting January 1, 2027, the county will establish a 401A account and they will contribute $100 per month for all X-unit members at that time. And it looked like I froze a minute ago, so I'm sorry about that. And if there's anything I need to go back and cover, please let me know.
That is correct, Jonathan. They can contribute towards their 457B, which I strongly encourage everyone to do since I do sit on that committee. But also you should know that the 401 might be managed by the same program that is already managing our 457B. I don't know that for sure, but there is talk of that. So it would just be easier for them to do that.
Great, thank you. And that now that you mention that, you're absolutely right, Jonathan, that the 401A, excuse me, not 403, 403B, I'm just confusing myself. 403B is a different one that members can contribute to. 401A is employer only. So yeah, that tracks. And they will be using the same financial manager as whatever you have for the 457B.
Which is, I believe, nationwide.
Thank you. I don't know. I didn't know who it was, but thank you. Okay, let's see. Emily Nicole comments, more of a comment, but I'll read it because it's great. The negotiations team achieved more than I thought possible. We are so used to just being me too to SEIU, and we exceeded this by quite a bit with this TA. These successes definitely amplify the need for a separate managers union to advocate for higher levels of compensation based on the additional responsibility, skill level, experience needed by managers. Emily, I couldn't have said it better myself. I'd like to copy and put that on our brochures for the yes vote. But yeah, absolutely. This was one of the big themes on this contract of the team was there needs to be an incentive for people to promote to management that has to be recognized. The 401A is an example of that, as well as just the additional compensation to make sure that we keep those spreads so that there's a financial incentive for people to promote to management. So yeah, thanks so much for saying it. This is a great, it's a rich contract that's better than what the line unions did. And I think it's deserved. You know, it's deserved.
Yes.
So thank you for commenting on that.
I just wanted, so Emily, thanks. And we would go back to a couple basic frames and when things would get, we would go on tangents or as you can do. And the frame was our role there was to get to make sure we get people to want to come into management and to get people to want to stay into management. So those were our barrier bustings that we were doing. And when we would get into places where we didn't necessarily agree, that was back to our frame. So even if we didn't get retirement health care, it was fine. If you are in SEIU, a motivation to become in management is to get retirement health care. So those were kinds of the dialogues that we had. And certainly there were hundreds of dialogues. And I also want to say overall that I felt HR to be respectful. We sometimes hear negatives and positives. We certainly did not always agree at all, but I did feel like we were able to have some good discussions through the whole process.
Well, Ginger, I really appreciate you mentioning that because I've neglected to, and I think it's important for people to know that while we disagreed, sometimes heatedly, with the county at the table, I felt we were always treated with respect and their negotiations team always listened not necessarily always attentively, but always listened to what we were saying and took that to heart and went back and asked their principals or other representatives, maybe we had a comment about a particular department or a particular feature of the contract, and then they went back, talked to those department heads, talked to benefits, talked to the CAO, the board, whoever it might be, and said, SEMA's representing this table, is this accurate? So I do want to highlight that I think, obviously your negotiation team has done a fabulous job. The county did a good job too, and we have a good partner with the county. And we're just going to build on that in future years. There are some other applaudatory comments from folks that I just want to thank Andrew, and I think it was Jonathan and John and Jason for J names for all the good congratulatory comments. You can check them out in chat if you want, but the negotiation team really appreciates your salutations and good works. I believe that covered all the questions. I just got another direct message. That covered all the questions that I saw in chat. Did I miss anything, team? I'm going to be looking at the one I just got.
No, we did get not a question, but just a confirmation that the vote has gone out. You should see that in your email boxes. So kind of a preemptive thank you for your participation in that vote. Your voice really does matter. We hope that you'll agree that this is a very solid contract, but please do your due diligence and vote with your conscience on it. And just thank you for your vote and your participation.
Yeah, and
Thank you.
be sure to remind if, a lot of people are out this week. So if some of your colleagues are out, just remind them to please look at their emails so they can submit their vote. This group really took our initiatives were based on what you responded with to the surveys. So even though they're annoying at times, it's really important because that gave us our priorities and we stuck to them. We all represented you very well. And I think that it's in response to what you tell us, because you're the one that guides us. So thank you. And please just remind, your colleagues that, that email is there for them to vote.
Can I just chime in there, Sandra? For the people at Natividad, please look in your junk mail. It has gone in that direction. So all these votes we need them to count. So please look at your junk mail if you're at Natividad. I can't say the same for the county, but make sure that the SEMA email, it did come from Zeb. Check your junk mail.
I can't believe I'm on the junk list, but
yeah, I was going to call that out as well. So typically when the survey goes out, Natividad or otherwise, county proper, it's usually set up in a way, hate to call this out, Annalisa, but if you regularly ignore our messages, it might just start going into junk. Or if you set a certain parameter on your Outlook, it could go to junk. So please check there if it's not in your inboxes. And if you don't get it within the next hour, I see somebody's direct message me saying that they haven't got it. Give it a little bit of time because it was on a scheduled send. But if it's not there in the next hour or two, get a hold of me and I'll find a new way to send it to you.
Well, I think Natividad just has a lot of blockades because I can't even click the link right now to vote. So I'm going to try it from my cell phone, but just FYI, Natividad is having issues.
Yes. So anybody from Natividad or otherwise, Deb, it sounds like you've already voted. Thank you. But yeah, if the link is broken or you don't get it, absolutely get a hold of me. I will find a new way to send it to you and you'll be able to vote. We'll get it fixed.
And as Sandra and everybody's been saying, we encourage everybody to vote. It's really important. If you don't vote, you don't matter. That applies to everything. So, I shouldn't say real politics, this is an extension of politics, but in elections, locally, as I mentioned, Measure AA made a huge difference in this contract. But also, voting on the proposal itself. Thank you folks that are saying you already voted. I won't ask you how you voted, but I'm glad you.
And you can you also use your cell phone if you're voting. So in case
That's right.
Spam if you can't find it. And Zeb Feldman, the email is coming from Zeb Feldman.
That's right, Z Feldman, and that's just because I'm the owner of the account that's sending out the ballots. So also anonymous asked, we have another question. clarification regarding the leave buyback / cash out. If we have already completed our election in ESS, do we need to go into ESS and edit the current election or submit a new election with a higher number of hours? Now, Jonathan and I actually talked about this prior to this meeting. Our understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, Jonathan, our understanding is that you vote, someone put in comment vote. You submit a new election with whatever the amount is, and the most recent election is what will be honored. Is that correct, Jonathan?
Yes, that's absolutely correct.
Great. So if you want to take advantage, again, assuming this passes, then please do that so that you can get the correct submittal for your ESS. Team, again, Ginger, Annalisa, Dina, Sandra, and Joseph, as well as Jonathan, I've looked at all of my private messages and answered all of them. Are there any anonymous ones you folks got that we need to address?
I just put on there, I know there was a question out there regarding the PERS Platinum, but if anybody wants to look at what it was going to be prior to our negotiation, you can go on Monterey County's website, look under medical, dental, vision, and it has the listing on there of what we were gonna pay. And now what we are gonna pay is exactly what the supervisors have under SEIU. So you guys can look at that difference if anybody needs a little more specifics.
Great.
Thank you, Annalisa, for doing that. Also, I think we mentioned this before. I think, Sandra, you called it out. If you didn't, I'm sorry. But we did get an influx of new members. We've gotten approximately about 20 new members just from last Friday, which is fantastic. One of those people asked in chat if they would be able to vote. Yes. When I set up the email to go out earlier today, it was updated as of, I think, gosh, like 10:45 this morning. So if you had submitted your application up to 10:45 this morning, you're included on the vote. And as Ed was saying, your voice does matter. Please vote and take a look at all the information on there. And thank you for joining.
I just saw an email from Lupe. Do you want to read that out so people from Natividad know?
Yep, and it's a great, yeah, thank you. Do you want to read it or do you want me to?
Go ahead.
Lupe is correctly pointing out for Natividad employees, don't try to open the links directly from the junk mail folder. The link is disabled. Move the email first to the inbox, then all links will be available. I can't speak to how the county sets up all junk email addresses. That's certainly the case for my professional email in Outlook, as well as my personal private one. That it disables the automatic loading as well as the links until I move it into the regular folder. So that's probably going to be true for everybody. I did get an anonymous, another direct message here. I think we partially answered this. The complication with the leave buyback is they can only be one election for leave type. So if the contract isn't approved, then our election will be denied. So that's kind of a follow-on to the earlier one about ESS, if you go and edit it. However, you do have until the end of this month to submit that. I think it's a pretty safe bet that the county will appreciate that it would be an overdraw if the contract doesn't pass. But I also think it's a pretty safe bet that the contract will pass. But that's me kind of reading the tea leaves.
Yeah, just a reminder that Zeb just pointed out, if you didn't catch that, election for your PTO cash out does need to be in by 11:30. That's this Friday. I know that you guys all have, I believe, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday off. So just wanted to call that out. If you haven't submitted it already, don't delay. The last chance to make that election is this Friday.
Yep. Ma Eden Barganza is saying that she could not find the email either in junk. My suspicion is the vote ballot is still being sent. When you preload in the ballots, it tends to take a while. I was commenting to Jonathan about this earlier today. I really don't understand why. This is not a heavy graphical document or something with huge attachments. But it does tend to take a little while. Someone's commenting their ballot was in clutter. Thank you, Hans. Thank you, Patricia. Thank you, Michelle, for all your nice comments and words and others that I might have missed. This is a last call for questions for us to answer on the recording. Any last sweeps, like Annalisa pointed out, that you've gotten individual messages, private messages, folks? Nope. Okay. Well, thank you everybody for your kind attention. We, again, in case you missed it, we're recommending a yes vote. So please vote yes on the contract. And we're really thankful for all of you, number one, for selecting SEMA and picking us as your union. And I think your negotiation team did a phenomenal job on this contract. So please vote yes. And when if it passes and you're spending some of that 16% on something fun for yourself, think of us.
Thanks, everybody. Okay, bye.
Thank you. Bye, everyone. Thank you, negotiations team.
Thank you. Bye.